What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. Alright, this story's called, After a Lifetime of Abuse, I Burned Everything Down and Got What I Wanted. I don't want to make this too disturbing, but read at your own risk. And it's really long. Tilde at the end, throw away because people know my other account. Part 1. The Childhood. My parents have always had a toxic and mutually abusive relationship. Physical fighting, screaming matches, destruction of each other's property, and then a short-term honeymoon phase. I witnessed it all. It was a cycle. Not only did they abuse each other, but my mother would physically abuse us with regular beatings, and my father would neglect us, allowing her to hurt us. We, my siblings and I, would see the worst of it on weekends. They would have events that lasted days and often argued well into the late hours. My mother would even take us from home out of spite for my father and have us stay with her abusive family members for days and sometimes weeks. This, of course, would interrupt school and put us behind other students. I would often come to school tired after being kept awake by an incident between them. In addition to that, I was prevented from building meaningful friendships outside of school because of how strict my parents were. I wasn't even allowed to take part in extracurricular activities because they insisted that they were meaningless and would corrupt me. Part 2. A Child's Revenge. I became resentful and angry. I hated that they would torment me and my siblings and then could cuddle and be lovey-dovey with each other during the honeymoon periods of the cycle. It disgusted me. By the time I reached my early teenage years, I made a decision to sabotage them at any chance I got. It was easy, since I had been watching their patterns for years. I stole money from my father in small amounts. I destroyed emotionally valuable items from each of them. I threw out food that they were saving as treats for themselves. I found receipts of purchases they were hiding from each other and left them out for the other to find. I destroyed clothing. I made each of them think I was siding with them after arguments, getting them to talk to me, and then took their dirty secrets back and forth to increase their distrust of each other. The funny part was, they never suspected it was me. I was just repeating the same behaviors they had already been doing, so they always assumed it was the other one. Part 3. The Next Level Revenge. As the years passed, I knew I would be leaving the household when I was an adult, so I expanded my plan. I knew that my younger siblings would suffer in a household with both of them together, especially after I left. I had been sexually abused in childhood by one of my mother's family members. My father and siblings didn't know, but my mother did. She knew what this person was and left me alone with him multiple times. She hinted to me that if my father ever found out about anything her family had done, I would be responsible for breaking up the family. That was how she got me to keep quiet about all of the abusive things her family members had done to us. Between the two of them, she was the worst. My father was really just neglectful and willfully ignorant of the deep levels of abuse she put us through. He thought that his role as a father was to go to work, bring home the money, and relax. I knew it would take something powerful to make him step up. I also knew that if they were exposed to the authorities, there was a chance my siblings would get separated or be forced to live with worse family members whose evil deeds couldn't be proven. I waited all the way until a few months before I was prepared to leave the household. Then I told my father what had happened to me. I told him all the secrets my mother had kept from him regarding how her family would abuse us whenever she took us to visit and stay with them. My siblings were never sexually abused, but they were beaten and starved. I told him I was telling him this now because I was planning on moving out, and I needed him to wake up and protect my siblings after I left. I told him there wasn't any hope of saving anything with me, but there was still time for the others to still have a good life. He cried. It had the desired result. The news traveled through the grapevine in the family quickly. All of their secrets were out, It caused a divide and shook the foundation of everything. People who had married into my mother's family took their kids away quietly. The family's reputation was destroyed in the religious community as well. I got tearful calls from some of them begging me to forgive and forget. Some accused me of lying or accused me of enjoying it, and even asked me to take it back. I had successfully set my family on fire. I left on schedule, I cut off contact with my mother, I had extreme limited contact with my father. I talked to my siblings constantly. My father stepped up. He cut my mother's family off and didn't allow them to see my siblings anymore. He divorced my mother a while later, once he had the means to take the youngest siblings away and live alone with them. My mother has extremely limited custody. The older ones had already moved out by that time. Part 4. The result. I am now living without any family in another state. I'm getting mental health treatment and living my life the best way that I can. I still talk to my siblings. They kept me updated on what's going on. My father is really taking care of the youngest ones, and he helps out the older ones when they need it. They have a far better life than I had, because he cares now. We don't talk that much about what happened and what I did for them. We still have a bond, and that's all I want. Wow, well, you're a good sibling for doing that. Jeez. While the father definitely should have done something sooner, it's a good thing that he actually did step up. Because just having one parent in your corner can make a world of difference. This one's called Aggressively Speed Through a Residential Neighborhood? Now your car is wrecked and it's your fault, dumb Bubba lover? What? So this was quite a few years ago. One day my kids were skating in a quarter pipe when this truck comes around the corner with a Bubba driving. And he sees my daughter come off the quarter pipe, and instead of slowing down, he floors it and rips past my house, still accelerating while yelling something about keep out of the road, lovers. I yelled also, slow down! The following weekend, I'm out mowing my lawn and I see this guy coming. So I walk out to the edge to try and wave him down to talk, and Bubba floors it again, laughing like a maniac as he goes flying by with his engine redlining. This guy is a nut! So I go to the hardware store and picked up 3 of those 3-foot orange safety cones, and I put a sign on each of them. Slow down, residential neighborhood, kids at play. A few days later, I come outside and find the cones have been run over. I already know who done it. I'm pretty pissed off, like really angry. And in that anger, I came up with my most brilliant plan. I went to the hardware store and purchased 3 new cones, along with cement and steel rebar. I filled those lovers with rebar and cement and let them set. After the cones were ready, I put them back out in the side of the street by my house with the same 3 signs as before. It didn't take long. 2 days later, I'm in my garage tinkering and I hear that damn truck engine revving up as the Bubba goes pedal to the metal. I look up just in time to see his truck steer towards the shoulder to run over the cones. Damn, it was a beautiful sight like none I've ever seen before. He hit the first cone with his bumper, and the cone fell forward and rotated the base up towards his engine block and actually lifted the front of his truck upwards, as his front passenger wheel made a direct connection with the second cone and launched his truck up even higher in the air. The third cone also made a direct hit on his right tire suspension as his truck came down to a screeching halt. There were fluids running out from under his truck, and his passenger tire was angled inwards at a 90-degree angle. Bubba was pissed off and started screaming about how I wrecked his truck and how I'm gonna pay. I yelled back and said, well then, let's call the cops and get them out here to make a report, and you can tell them how you were racing down the road and intentionally ran over the safety cones. Or I can call you a tow truck. Which will it be? We called a tow truck. I never did see Bubba drive down my street anymore after that incident. I was worried he'd try to get revenge, but nothing ever happened, and we moved out a couple of years later. I want someone like that in my neighborhood from high school, because You don't know how many times some punks were just speeding down the freaking street. Oh my god, it was ridiculous. This story's called "A Big Company and Its New Manager Held Off Our Pay. We Took in All Their Sales." This story is a year old, and I hope this falls in the ProRevenge category. Premise: I worked for a technology company which falls in the startup medium enterprise category. Let us refer to this as my company. We were working on the creation of an Internet of Thing, or IoT, based product for large industries. But as we were new to the domain, we had hired a couple of industry experts to help us understand the domain and help us with understanding the gaps. This is a common practice. Enters bigger company. A company that has been dealing with devices for over 15 years now. They had a big product in our same domain named Big Product. They had Big Product version 5 running in various places, which was built on legacy stack. Their new version, Big Product 6.0, tanked really hard among their clients, and they needed someone who dealt with better technology to help them build their product, and that brought them to us. The coming of bigger company was really good for our product, as they had really good insights to bring to the table. As being a major player, they wanted us to build Big Product 7.0 instead of our product. But being a product company, that was out of scope. Thus, we decided to be API providers for as to back-end capabilities while the UI looks different. Think of it as different buttons in your web page, but similar functionality. We were also responsible for bundling and deploying the application. Legally, we have signed a contract that says my company clearly owns the code, and they have no right to see or recreate our code, just to make us indispensable as API providers for bigger company. Things have been going well for both of us, and both products were shaping up well. Incident. Suddenly, one day, bigger company gets a new guy to handle the product. Big manager, and we see some red flags immediately. Major escalation in blame gaming for every deployment and everything, eventually to a point where we were tired of the engagement with bigger company. We were targeting a major product expo for October 2019, and so were they. With the big manager came in some associates who kept asking technical questions about logic and stuff and pestering our developers. This led to a suspicion that they were trying to micromanage and peep in our tech stack, which made our teamwork on better encryption for our code, essentially making things even better for us. He changed a few keys in the database and complained that there was a bug. We sealed off the database. He decided to not pay for the engagement, showing our incompetence. He also sold the license to the product without paying us to some of his clients. One fine day, they called a junior developer asking some doubts, which resulted in him joining a call with them. The link was soon shared in our team's chat, and almost all of us, including my CEO, joined the call. Now, we promptly had things recorded. Our plan was simple: make sure that their product doesn't get presented for the major expo. We pulled sufficient proof to prove that there was non-compliance with our contract. The next day, we pulled in the legal team and decide to call off the engagement. We also hand over the entire documentation on the same day. The team pulled an all-nighter. Also, we had seen this coming. One of the things that was scheduled for next week was to make their deployment HTTPS compliant. Now, for most on-premise deployments and plants, people really don't go with SSL-enabled products. But for the Expo, a secure deployment was mandatory. They did not have this, which meant they can talk about their product, but can't show it in real time. We were actually open with a try it out for free. Now, things looked bad for them for the Expo, but they were still bigger players and had a larger client base. We changed the look of our product and called it Our Product 2.0. It is the same product but looks different, and word got out that Big Product 7.0 runs on Our Product 1.0, and man, our stalls were filled with their clients who were not pleased with their earlier product, 6.0, the one that tanked. What Big Manager might have never understood is what actually happened wrong for him. With every escalation mail he sent, our team became slower for him. We pushed him to a place where he decided to build on his own. What he did not realize was that was exactly what we wanted him to do. We had started the preparation of 2.0 in parallel for the expo. We had every intention of ditching them before the expo. We had no intention of upgrading their security for the expo. Soon after the expo, we canceled licenses to all their clients, and when they came barging into the doors of bigger company, they pointed to us. We were more than happy to reinstate their products, and as a gesture for their inconvenience, we gave them our product 2.0 with no migration charges. The bigger company currently doesn't sell the software. Or do they? They are pretty much irrelevant. Alright, well, I'm not 100% clear on what happened here, but I do know that big company tried to do some sneaky stuff with our company, so that sucked. Good thing they got what was coming to them. I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm glad they got it. Alright, as you guys have probably noticed by now, I like to end every revenge-oriented episode with a little bit of wholesomeness toward the end. That was a redundant statement, but I don't care. So today's wholesome story is called A Happy Story from Father's Day. And this is from r/tales from your server. Father's Day was pretty normal. Much slower than I thought it was gonna be though. Sat a couple of 5 tops, then a family of 2 adults and 5 children walk in. They order their drinks and pizza and I bring out their food. All is normal until a man at the bar walks over to me and hands me his debit card. He tells me he wants to buy a dessert, a large slice of ice cream cake, for my table and pay for the rest of their meal. He also instructs me not to tell the family until after he leaves. When the family is finished, I bring out the cake and enough spoons and tell them someone in the restaurant has paid for their dessert. They were happy and surprised, and I let them finish the cake when I go over to let them know the meal has been paid for, tip and all. He left a $20 tip too. The dad about breaks down into tears upon hearing this news, and the mom said that she thought that only happened in the movies. The dad then tells me that a year ago, they had lost custody of all their kids and they had been fighting to get them back. 2 days before Father's Day was the day they finally won custody back, and they were so happy to be spending Father's Day together. I mentioned this to my coworker, and she said the man who paid for the meal does things like that a lot. But I'm looking forward to see him again so I can let him know how happy he made this family. It was nice seeing a little good in all this crazy lately. Oh, I wanna cry. Oh my gosh, I'm really glad they posted this. Thank you, Eiley. I appreciate the story. Wow. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.